Well, hello there. This is Charles the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Today, I'm going to talk about the art of making sacrifices in chess. And a lot of this video and, the way, in fact, I played this game is inspired by a book written by Rudolf Spielmann. Almost 100 years ago, 90 years ago, in 1935, The Art of Sacrifice in Chess. Rudolf Spielmann was one of the last of the Romantic masters, playing the Romantic style long after the zeitgeist had really changed to a more modern or classical positional style. Now, this book is his treatise on categorizing, creating a taxonomy of the different types of sacrifices in chess. And I'm going to be using his terminology in this video to talk about the game. Now, the introduction to this book has some absolute cracker quotations, and I'm just going to read a very short one from near the top of the page. Sacrifice, a hallowed, heroic concept. Advancing in a chivalrous mood, the individual immolates himself for a noble idea. So we love sacrifices in chess. I love sacrifices in chess. And in this game, I'm going to talk about several different types of sacrifices and how we can conceptualize them. Now, Rudolf Spielmann, as I mentioned, is one of the last of the Romantic masters, and in fact really inspired quite a lot of the work in my own book, Become a Chess Assassin, which was released exactly 1 week ago, and I've described this book as a celebration of Romanticism in chess. You should get a copy. Now, in this game, I had the white pieces playing a random noob, so an unrated match. I, of course, start with 1e4. King's pawn opening, always play that, and they decided to play the Sicilian defense. Against the Sicilian, I usually play the smith-morra gambit. Captures, again, captures, so giving up a pawn, so it's sacrificing a pawn, and here we've got the smith-morra gambit accepted position. And this type of sacrifice, in fact, most sacrifices of opening gambits, are what Spielmann would categorize firstly as a real sacrifice. So he talks about two major categories. So there are the real sacrifices and also what he called the sham sacrifices or the temporary sacrifices. So sham sacrifices, temporary sacrifices, these are sort of moves where you do lose material, but it's really temporary. It's actually perfectly fine. For instance, making a sacrifice for a piece in a line of forced checkmate. It's not really a sacrifice in a sense, but it's of course still beautiful, but there isn't really much risk. And this is the salient issue that makes the difference between a sham or temporary sacrifice and a real sacrifice according to Spielmann, the element of risk. A real sacrifice involves risk, meaning it involves uncertainty. Now, a good sacrifice will still probabilistically be beneficial, but it's definitely not certain. And in the article that follows, that comes with this video, which you can see in the description, I talk about this in a little bit more depth. So with risk, we need to make determinations on whether or not the risk is worth it. We need to think about our risk appetite. Does the risk make sense in terms of the objectives that we have for the game, in terms of our strategy for the game? We need to make conscious decisions and make a determination when we make these moves. And Spielmann talks about the difference between a move that is practically sound versus theoretically sound. So a lot of sacrifices may not, be theoretically sound on analysis, when you have plenty of time or infinite time to look at a position, but in the specific circumstances, a move may nonetheless be practically sound. It's good in the situation of the game because of the extraneous factors. of the game. So most opening gambits fit into this idea of a real sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice for development. And we can see at the end of this move, black has no developed pieces. Yes, we have lost a pawn, so they're a point of material up, but we get the advantage in development, and we are making the claim that that advantage in development is worthwhile. When we look at the Lichess community database, this notion of practical versus theoretical soundness seems to bear fruit. So the smith-morra gambit is somewhat unsound from a theoretical perspective, but the Sicilian defense is one of the openings that black can play where black and white are both completely equal in win ratios, win likelihood at the beginning. But after the smith-morra gambit, white actually gains an advantage in win likelihood despite the fact that the evaluation slightly favours black. So it is practically excellent, even though it is theoretically a little bit unsound. Alright, let's move on. So, the game now progresses fairly normally for a smith-morra gambit. So, other knight, develop the bishop, looking here, yep, a6, e6, d6, these are all very, very natural looking moves. I develop the other knight, there's the e6. I now short castle, they develop the other knight, I push this bishop, basically seeing what they're going to do. They now play this, and in this position, I move the queen, getting ready. They push another sort of creeping pawn move. Again, very, very normal for the Sicilian. You can see black is slightly ahead in the position. But now I move the rook across, potentially with a pin of the queen. Queen moves out of the way. I centralize my other rook. They short castle. We're in the middle game now. And in this position, I play my second sacrifice. Here, I play a speculative move. It's a sacrificial move, e5, giving up that pawn. Now, this is again another real sacrifice. Black is technically better. You can see minus 1.5 after that move because they can take. I'm not going to capture back. I'm not going to capture back that pawn. Captures, it's defended. So why did I do this? Well, now on move 14, turn 14, I was planning from the beginning to play bishop d3. So this sacrifice is what Spielmann calls an obstructive sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to cause an obstruction to the opponent's play. So it's kind of like a developmental sacrifice for development. You will notice these doubled e-pawns blocks in the light square bishop, blocks in the diagonal for the queen, and with the backwards bishop move for me, I'm now potentially planning a Greek gift sacrifice type attack. So this wall that black has created locks out a lot of their pieces from the king side, meaning they can't so easily attack my position, but also can't bring their pieces into the defense of their king. Second sacrifice, technically black this is technically fine for black, but again, not so easy for them to play. All right, they move their knight. Here, bringing my queen forward. They capture, okay, so the Greek gift sacrifice isn't necessarily available now. Notice this wall. So they try to develop their bishop, and maybe thinking that they can move it into a position where they can do an attack. And in this move, in move 17, I move my knight now also into attack. So all pieces are into attack, and basically I'm looking at that tender h7 pawn. All right. They move their bishop back, okay? So here, look at that wall. What am I going to do? Ideally, I want to get my queen onto the h-file with that double teaming of that h7 pawn. But, as soon as I move my queen there, they seem to be able to block that move. So now, yet another sacrifice, this time h4. A very, very tricky move. looks like I'm just straight up hanging that pawn. Maybe they're thinking I'm just moving my pawn up to try to attack their position. This is something called a decoy or deflection sacrifice. Again, another real sacrifice. Here, black should not take that pawn. They should ignore it, but it's so tempting. They take it, deflecting their bishop or decoy for their bishop. See, you can see the number of other moves is better for black. And the reason I want to do that is now I've got queen h3 attacking that bishop. They have now lost that bishop. They can't protect it, they can't defend it, and if they do so, they risk either massive loss of material or potentially mate. Black doesn't realize what I'm doing. They probably thought that they could make their bishop like a little sniper, you know, in and out like an assassin, take the bishop out. It's a blunder. Blunders mate in two, and here I've got another sacrifice, but this one, as mentioned right at the beginning, is a temporary sacrifice or a sham sacrifice because it is part of a forced line of checkmate. So there is no risk in playing this move. Can you see it? The chess.com an analytic engine actually calls this a brilliancy, a knight f6 with check. Black must respond to the check, and whatever they do to respond to the check, take this way, or just move the king out of the way, they cannot defend their h7 pawn. Here they take. That wall I mentioned all the way at the beginning is now black's undoing. Queen captures the h7 pawn, and it's mate. Good game, GG. The big takeaway from this game is to include sacrifices in your calculations on positions and tactics. Having an appreciation of the difference between practical soundness and theoretical soundness is very important in trying to make romantic attacks work. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.